let's discuss this and more with Pashupati Advani, founder of Global Foray. Pashupati, afternoon. Always a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for joining in. You know, as Nigel was playing out the whole picture on both sides, I was just remembering, I think one battle that Asian Paints won very early on was the battle in mindshare with some iconic campaigns in terms of Har Ghar Kuch Kehta and whatnot. The paint sector hasn't seen this kind of disruption in the last many years. What are your thoughts? What will emerge? And in the meantime, what should investors do?
Well, obviously, everyone who's in the paint space has realized that the space is going to gap up a lot and be a lot more demand. And the challenge with Asian Paints is it can only go down from being number one. It'll stay number one for as long as possible and then go down. What is interesting is the seriousness and the money, the checkbooks of the players that are competing, like, for example, as you mentioned, Pidilite and now Grasim. They're here to stay. Both of them have complementary products. So I think they're there. But the great thing is, there's also consolidation in the industry. There's also consolidation in products, and of course, more and more people are using. There's more, buildings happening and things like that. So I think it's all good for everyone. And according to me, the pie is big enough for them all.
Okay. But is it good for investors, Pashupati? That's the question, right? If there's going to be competition and pricing is going to be a key sort of lever in this war, then what about margins? And for just that reason, would you be cautious on the sector in the near term?
In the near term, obviously, it depends on how these guys come in. If they're going to cut prices, then obviously there'll be some kind of a margin war. But honestly, I don't think they're going to cut prices that much because, as I said, I think the market itself is growing so much that it'll be okay. And you can't disassociate Grasim paints from Grasim. You can't disassociate Pidilite paints from Pidilite. So those guys are in cement or in adhesives. You're going to continue to buy them because they're all used for household products. And Asian Paints also has come a little bit into their area. So, it's going to be lots of people selling the same things. They're just trying to make it easier to get to the customer. I think that's the only thing. And whoever wins that battle wins the war.
All right. Hi, Pashupati. Good afternoon and good to see you.
Nigel.
Between the two, but which one would you buy? Or do you believe, as you said, the pie is big enough for both of them? So you believe both will flourish?
Smart investors don't look to nuances. They just buy, either on market cap basis or something like that. They just buy them all because the sector is going to grow. Okay, so if you don't take number one in the sector and you end up with number two, you'll make 5% less. But the sector is right, you'll make the good money. So I think this sector is good. I would even call it, sexy, if you want to call that, if I'm allowed to make that word on television. And I think that, all these big boys will flourish in the sector.
Interesting. All right. Mr. Advani, the other question that we normally ask you about is about Paytm. I recall you were a buyer at around 500, 550, 600, and then I think you sold some at around 850, 900. So that worked perfect for you. And you said, if I can get it at lower levels, it'll be quite interesting. Now you're getting it at much lower levels, though there have been plenty that has changed. At around this 400 rupee mark, is Mr. Pashupati Advani interested in Paytm or not?
No, so Nigel, I decided to be a little brave and I bought it on the third lower circuit at 438. So
okay.
that I'm now long and wrong $50 higher than the market today. But I think that they are getting their act together. I think this particular company is almost like a too big to fail because there are 3 crore FASTags. Can you imagine if the FASTags stop working? So, I mean, you've got those kinds of things that have to be dealt. And there's no provision in the FASTag software to just take the number and port the number of the tag to a new bank. So they're saying, get a new FASTag. Why would we waste all those resources when all it takes is to port the numbers onto somewhere else? Or have the wallet at Paytm only be allowed for FASTag? I mean, something like that, if they do, then, it takes the pain away from the consumer. And I think that's what it's all about. It's about taking the pain away from the consumer. So I think, according to me, yeah, sure, they're losing their banking. They're not going to be able to get the money that finance companies get. But, I think at this point in the game, that's not a bad thing because there's a lot of risk in people who are taking loans of 20, 30, 10,000, 15,000. And there's a lot of people in that space who are not paying it back. So I think by being one step away from the market, it might actually gain. I've seen a couple of reports that say that after you take away the payments gateway, the valuation should be around 400 rupees, which is where we are. So, I think we should get, I'm quite comfortable getting back in, probably going to add to the position at these levels and see what happens.
That's a big call. 4:30, right? You got in at 4:38. 4:38.
438. That it was a lower circuit 20, 20 and 10. So the third lower circuit, I
Okay.
said, bus. So it was
Amazing.
430.
Amazing.
So,
Now that's a Braveheart move, and I'm sure we're going to remember it and talk more about it, guys. I'm just remembering from this conversation. He said FASTag and wallet. I have bigger issues at hand right now. I don't know if my FASTag is going to work, so I need to do something about it before the 29th for Reema.
All right, Pashupati, what about ABB? Now, ABB has, stolen the spotlight over the last 2 days. Very strong numbers, great momentum. But can you go out and buy right now, even if you have, say, a 2 or 3 year time horizon? Are you comfortable, or will you wait for lower levels?
So I actually don't follow that company too well, but I'm a little wary of buying high multiple multinationals. So I am wary of that. I did see a rumor in some stock chart that says that Whirlpool may be coming to sell shares in the market. That's a strategy that I'm seeing some companies look at, where they're divesting to get money overseas because the multiples are high. So why would that not happen with an ABB, for example? So let's see. I mean, as I said, I am personally not interested in buying high multiple MNCs. That's my thought.
Okay. Speaking of MNCs, I just want to go back to the Aditya Birla Group for one, to get your thoughts on what they're doing with Hindalco. And Nigel explained it really well to us, because it seems now they want to go and list Novelis, and it's the parent selling shares, but we don't know how many shares, we don't know how much money they're looking to raise, and more importantly, we don't know what they want to do with that money. So that's one aspect, and then there is, the overall metal cycle and what's happening with it. Any interest here? Any thoughts here?
Well, what they're going to do with the money is maybe use it in the paint business. Who knows? No, I'm saying that's a very
we hope not, right, Pashupati? We hope not, because Nigel pointed out one of the biggest red flags and fears yesterday. I think it was day before when the news came. The worry that if it indirectly in some format goes to Vodafone Idea. So hope not. Neither Vodafone Idea nor paints for that matter, right? I mean, it's hygiene. It's corporate governance hygiene, no?
Well, I think there are. This is a very astute financial group. It's one of the biggest in the country, and they are quietly doing things. Vodafone Idea is a place where money is needed. So whether it's going to, but then there's no conclusion yet. So I mean, there are three overhangs that Vodafone Idea has. One is the fact that they have not decided on that AGR. The second is they have not decided on whether the original transaction where Vodafone bought it from Hutchinson, whether that is going to attract tax on a retrospective basis. And the third is what's happening with the government stock of Vodafone Idea at 10, where they have like 25-30% of the company, where they actually converted debt into equity. At that time, the stock was below par. Maybe there's something brewing in that whole, should I say, pot. And, maybe they do need the money for that. But in any case, while metals are doing well, they had obviously leveraged to buy Novelis. They're probably paying down their leverage overseas on that and, getting some cash in, because I think there will be interesting assets up for sale, certainly in the developed world. Maybe not so, India people are asking for very high prices, but in the developed world, there'll be assets that are going to be coming cheap. And I think the Aditya Birla Group is looking at that and positioning themselves properly.
Okay, thank you for that. The world leaders and business honchos from across the world are also jet setting to Jamnagar for the pre-wedding